Over 5,000 developers have quietly starred a Python repo designed to do exactly one thing: trick Anthropic's official CLI into running on competitor infrastructure. Operating an autonomous coding agent directly in your terminal is highly effective. You give it a task, and it writes, tests, and refactors your codebase. But the operational reality of running that agent locally is brutal on the balance sheet. This chart illustrates the core problem. While your developer productivity scales linearly, the agent relies on continuous polling, file reading, and iterative error looping. That creates a violently spiking exponential curve in API token consumption. Leaving these agents running all day for routine development creates an unmanageable burn rate. Small engineering teams simply do not have the capital to absorb that kind of constant, passive API taxation. To utilize autonomous development without depleting their runway, teams are forced to separate the exceptional logic of the user interface from the expensive backend powering it. This schematic lays out the standard data flow. When you install the official Claude Code CLI, your local environment opens a direct, unbroken pipeline straight to Anthropic's cloud servers. The free Claude Code repository disrupts this by acting as a transparent, man-in-the-middle proxy. It sits locally on your machine and physically intercepts the outbound server-sent events before they leave your network. Once the data is caught, the proxy translates the proprietary Anthropic payload on the fly, reshaping it into a standard OpenAI-compatible format. It then forwards those newly shaped requests to alternative providers. You can route Opus and Sonic queries to heavily subsidized APIs like NVIDIA NIM and OpenRouter, or bypass the cloud entirely by pointing the proxy at local DeepSeek and llama models. The proxy also aggressively filters the stream. Trivial background checks, like quota probes, title generation, and suggestions, are intercepted and answered locally. The external network is only queried when actual logic processing is required. The execution here is entirely external. The proxy overrides the system architecture without requiring a single line of modification to Anthropic's official codebase. Developers point their base URL environment variable to the proxy, add a local authentication token, and the telemetry hijack is complete. You retain the industry's most polished autonomous UI, completely decoupled from the costly proprietary backend it was built for. Cost isn't the only metric teams have to control. Autonomous agents have a habit of quietly spinning up runaway subagents that burn through local compute resources while you aren't looking. The proxy solves this by analyzing the outbound task tools and deliberately forcing the background execution parameter to false. It strictly limits how deep a subagent loop can go, and because the proxy acts as a local server, it enables full remote execution. You can control your local terminal's coding agent entirely from a Discord or Telegram bot on your phone. You send a voice note, a local whisper model transcribes it, and the bot executes the command via tree-based conversation threading. You fork complex branches of code without typing a word. Combining these guardrails with mobile interfaces transforms the local CLI into a persistent, remote-controlled developer environment that functions independently of the vendor's pricing model. But bypassing a fully managed ecosystem requires accepting specific engineering trade-offs. You shift from a single invoice to actively managing rotating API keys across multiple third-party routing platforms. This data gauge illustrates the free tier ceiling. NVIDIA NIM's 40 request limit will throttle your terminal during intense debugging. Once hit, you either wait for a reset or pivot to local hardware via LM Studio, offloading the financial costs directly onto your own on-premise TPUs. It highlights a structural vulnerability in closed AI ecosystems. The tight integration between software tools and server clusters can be easily severed by overriding a couple of environment variables. If developers can reliably swap the underlying intelligence of an application without touching its source code, major AI companies may find they are simply building highly polished free front ends for their open source competitors. Subscribe to the channel for more technical breakdowns of developer infrastructure, and click here to watch our next deep dive on Cube Sandbox.